Hey, Jessica Jordan here, and I have been helping men overcome pornography addiction since 2019. And I'm going to share with you the 7 most common reasons that I see for men to become addicted to pornography. And as you listen, notice which categories you fall into. Also, I've had over 15,000 men get started on my free stuff. I do have a link in the description for you if you want that. And just so you know this is the real deal, I have personally helped 12-step leaders, church pastors, and licensed therapists when they were stuck in their addiction and wanted to heal. They were able to heal and recover and move forward in my Leap of Courage program exclusively for men. Okay, so let's get into the 7 most common reasons why a man might fall into a pornography addiction. And you might fall into multiple categories. So, number 1, men who fear getting rejected are men who are most likely going to use pornography. Pornography never rejects you. It never asks for courage. It never asks anything of you. You just get to show up and press the easy button to pleasure. Which, by the way, for any of you who are familiar with Dr. Andrew Huberman, a neurobiologist at Stanford University who also has the #1 health podcast in the world with almost 7 million followers, a quote from him is, "The most dangerous thing for the human mind is receiving pleasure without having to work for it." I have a different video that goes into the neurobiology of that. And it is quite terrifying, the truth of that, and how easily accessible pleasure just is at our fingertips. Smartphones. But back to the reason. So pornography never rejects you. Men who are terrified of rejection are going to avoid rejection at all costs. What does this mean? It means run and watch pornography, which is like the anti-courage button. And you never have to fear getting rejected. But that also means you're gonna miss out on a loving, committed relationship. And that being said, it's important to say that maybe around half of my clients are actually married men who have sexually available wives, loving wives, attractive wives. So there's clearly other reasons why a man might be addicted to pornography, because his wife functionally serves as an ejaculation outlet that's not rejecting him. Now, that's a conversation worth having, a video on its own, but it is worth saying that whenever you choose to watch pornography, it weakens your ability to have courage in all other areas of life. Whenever you watch pornography, it weakens your ability to have courage in all other areas of life. Also, since it desensitizes your dopamine receptors, it lowers your drive, your motivation, your competitive nature, and you're far less likely to succeed in every and all areas of life. You lose that masculine edge, that competitive edge. Reason number 2, poor stress management skills. You're using pornography as a coping mechanism, and when you do that, it lowers your resistance to be able to handle stress, all forms of stress, no matter what form it is. Using pornography as a stress management tool will always lower your neurology to handle stress, rather than just solving the problem, which might involve courageous inner deep work on the subconscious level. It might involve emotions that you don't want to experience. It might involve going into the shadows of who you are. That requires courage. Pornography lowers your ability for courage, lowers your ability to have resiliency for stress. So someone who has poor stress management skills and doesn't have the courage or the knowledge, maybe you have the courage but you don't have the knowledge. Maybe you have the knowledge but not the courage. In order to really effectively have healthy stress management skills. When you don't have that, you're more likely to use pornography as an addictive escapism outlet. Number 3, unresolved trauma of any kind. And trauma is more common than most people realize. It's not like this giant, massive thing where you have like this big, horrible memory. Oftentimes, it was how we were treated as kids, even if our parents totally loved us, but they didn't have everything in their toolbox to know how to provide us everything with what we needed to provide safety for our nervous systems as we were a developing child. What does that lead to? That actually ties into reason number 1 and 2, fear of rejection and poor stress management skills. And every addiction is merely a surface level symptom of unresolved emotional wounds of the past. Every addiction is a surface level symptom of unresolved emotional wounds of the past that you are attempting to escape from because you don't know how to heal what's going on inside of you, and you desperately want to escape that discomfort because maybe you just feel like you need to get a good night's rest, or you need to make it through the day. But what if what was going on inside of you was resolved so that you do get a good night's rest, so that you can calmly and safely, safe in your nervous system, make it through the day without anxiety or depression or the pressure you put on yourself to do whatever it is that you're doing. By the way, trauma is passed down generationally, genetically, through the mother's mitochondrial DNA. It can be traced back something like 16 generations, which means everyone living on the planet has some amount of trauma in their nervous system that needs healing. I remember when I first learned that I had trauma, unresolved childhood trauma. I realized this in my 30s, and I had no idea how totally common it was. I felt like this excluded outcast that would be broken forever, that couldn't relate to anyone, or no one could relate to me, and I was gonna just be this like, whatever. And I realized, it's extremely common. Everyone has it at some point. We all get it to different severities, and everyone can heal from it. It's a formula to heal from it. Healing equals safety plus vulnerability. Number 4, connection is the opposite of addiction. So if you don't have safe, healthy connection with other people on a very reliable and consistent ongoing basis, part of your lifestyle, not just some good friend that you call up once a month, a few times a year, but I mean a deep and meaningful, safe connection. Safe connection. I'm going to emphasize the safe connection, and I'm going to illustrate this with an example. Some of my clients are married. You'd think there's a connection, right? And there is. And it's an extremely strong bonded connection. But it's a connection that reinforces unresolved wounds of the past. Codependency. This is where you have someone who's an anxious attachment style and an avoidant attachment style link up, become a couple, oftentimes married, and that can create a codependency. And that codependency is an addiction. Codependency is an addiction. And it keeps a person in a trauma loop. So if you are in a codependent relationship, the way that the other person responds to you, reacts to you, treats you, shows up, is going to be reinforcing the emotional wounds that keep you in a place where you have subconscious low self-worth, fear of rejection. Those unresolved emotional wounds of the past are constantly getting re-wounded, reinforced, and re-wounded. In that case, it's nearly impossible to heal from any other addiction you may have, such as a pornography addiction, alcohol addiction. But the beautiful thing is, both partners in the relationship can consciously choose, can bravely choose to be totally committed to the healing journey and realize what each one needs for themselves and their partners to show up, to heal into the secure attachment style. For attachment styles, only one type is secure. Hardly anyone is truly secure. Everyone else is somewhere on the spectrum of one of the non-secure types. So yes, connection is the opposite of addiction. But I'm going to emphasize healthy connection is the opposite of addiction. Healthy connection. One that brings peace and safety to your nervous system. It is so calming. And when I mean safety, it's the neurochemical concoction of elevated oxytocin and serotonin. Ooh, you feel safe when you have that. There is an experiment called the Rat Park experiment all on addiction. I have a video on this, and it beautifully illustrates how true this is. I'll give you a little sneak peek. Essentially, there were rats that were given heroin, and they could press a lever and receive the heroin water anytime they wanted. And the rats got addicted. But guess what? The rats were isolated. They were alone. And rats are like people. They form very strong bonds with their rat families. They check in on each other. They keep each other warm. They have altruism. And they bond to each other. They are deeply social creatures, just like humans are and just like dogs are. And so the researchers decided to make Rat Park. Rat Park had a place where the rats could run around together. And Rat Park was enriched with fun things that they could run around on and play and solve problems and be actively engaged with their intelligent mind within Rat Park and with each other. And they had healthy food, and they were able to have healthy rat sex with each other. Let's just say all of their needs were being met. And in Rat Park, they had regular water, and they had water that was laced with heroin or something very similar. It was either heroin or something equally as addictive. And guess what? Even though the rats had the heroin-laced water available in Rat Park, they chose the regular water instead. They chose the regular water instead because they had healthy connection. They had an enriched environment all around them that was satisfying to their nervous systems. It gave them what they needed. But you take these same rats and you isolate them in a small cage with nothing for them to do, no one for them to bond with, and they have regular water and heroin-laced water. These rats would choose the addictive heroin-laced water every time and get addicted. You put those rats in Rat Park and they choose to wean themselves off of the heroin water and go back to the regular water. Isn't that amazing? That study helped us understand so much about addiction. So much. Okay, reason number 5. I'm just gonna read you what I wrote down here. If you play video games, eat junk food, doom scroll on your phone, spend lots of time on dating apps, use weed or alcohol to calm your nerves, you are more likely to be addicted to pornography. Essentially, you have trained your nervous system, your neurology, your dopamine receptors to receive pleasure without having to work for it. To receive pleasure without having to work for it. What does this do? It tells you that in every other area of your life, that putting forth effort to get a reward is not worth it. Your subconscious mind says, the juice ain't worth the squeeze. Why am I gonna put effort towards receiving dopamine when I could press the easy button to any of these other things? So if you're pressing the easy button to dopamine in those other things that I listed, then when it comes to the sexual experience, your subconscious mind is gonna go, dating, courtship, foreplay? Why would I dare put effort into any of that when I could just press the easy button? Ooh, that is dangerous for the mind. Because now you're receiving the sexual experience without having the connection piece. The connection piece is what your nervous system needs, your neurology needs, your subconscious mind needs in order to truly make it safe for you, and in order for you to regulate your emotions in a proper way as you elevate your vasopressin, which is a neurochemical that happens in the sexual experience. Vasopressin is supposed to be a you and me together experience, not an alone and isolated experience. So when you're having an alone ejaculation or sexual experience, it's gonna go awry. It's going to hurt you on a neurochemical level. And there are definitely exceptions to that. And watching pornography doesn't fall into one of the exceptions at all. There are ways to go solo and have it actually be healing in a way where you can heal from trauma going solo, but that does not involve pornography. So the easy button to dopamine in your life, the more that you have any form of easy button to dopamine in your life, the more that you're likely to continue to get other areas of the easy button to dopamine, which means I don't have to work for it. Free, easy, no effort. Scrolling, video games, junk food, pornography. The list goes on. And things like weed, alcohol to lower your stress. If you're feeling that and you're using that as a coping mechanism, then you're much more likely to also use pornography as a poor strategy or coping mechanism for your stress. In all forms of that, whether it's porn, alcohol, weed, if you're using that to not feel as stressed, you are weakening your ability to regulate your emotions, to regulate your nervous system. You're removing your ability to do that from within. And that weakens who you are as an individual. It lowers your courage, it lowers your resiliency to stress in every area of life. This is a neurochemical subconscious non-negotiable that is happening. This is a neurochemical subconscious non-negotiable that is happening. How long are you going to allow yourself to fall into that trap? And when you press that easy button to pleasure, it completely removes your masculine edge. It removes your competitive edge, your drive, your motivation. I know these words sound familiar to you. And when you are living in that way, you are a wounded man. Your masculinity is wounded. And when you show up with wounded masculinity, it's impossible to attract in a healthy woman. And who do you attract instead? Wounded women who are most likely going to show up and reinforce your emotional wounds of the past, unless you both consciously choose to commit to the healing journey and learn what needs to be done, and then you can heal together, which could deepen and accelerate your healing journey, and I totally encourage that. But you must make sure that that other person is deeply committed to the healing journey just like you are before saying yes to that commitment. Otherwise, you end up in a relationship that is addictive and unhealthy. And the relationship in itself is a form of addiction. The relationship addictions are the ones we want to get rid of first, because it's a continual reinforcement of the wounding that needs to be healed to heal from addiction. So if you're trying to heal from pornography or any other addiction, but you are in one of these codependent, addictive relationships, it's just not going to work out for you unless you both commit to the healing journey. Reason number 6, lack of purpose. When you have a lack of purpose, you have a lack of vasopressin in your nervous system. This means that you have not anchored safety into your neurology. You have a low sense of purpose when you have low vasopressin. And when you have a strong sense of purpose, it neurochemically sets you up for courage and satisfaction. It elevates your subconscious self-worth, which lowers your fear of rejection, which means you're more likely to go out and meet someone, go on dates, enter a loving, committed relationship. And if you're already married, then when you have a strong sense of purpose, it neurochemically sets you up in a way where it heightens your masculine edge and your wife will be more attracted to you. And that's going to have an upward spiral neurochemically and on your self-worth with how you show up in every area of life. Your sense of purpose is a mandatory part of this healing journey. There is no greater medicine than having a sense of purpose and acting on it and seeing the results of your actions. Purpose allows you to step into courage 100% of the time. And it's because we're putting other people before ourselves in a way that's healthy, not a people-pleasing, draining way, but in a healthy way. And when we have that love and compassion for other people, and we know that our purpose is helping those individuals, then courage shows up for us to take the mandatory actions needed. And then you get to prove to yourself how badass you are because of the incredible impact that you're having on other people. That is a neurochemical, magical concoction for healing. Okay, number 7. We touched on this earlier, but number 7, not having a secure attachment style. There are 4 attachment styles, only one is secure, hardly anyone is truly secure. Anyone who falls into one of the other 3 categories has a higher chance of addiction, and it's not categorical necessarily like you have it or you don't, but each category takes place on a spectrum of how intense do you have the avoidant attachment style or the anxious attachment style. And there's one that's called the fearful avoidant attachment style, which is kind of like the worst of both of them put together. So those are the 7 most common reasons that I see as I help men overcome pornography addiction. If you're looking for legit help on this and you want to go deep and comprehensive, I promise that I have more than you will ever even need. We'll just go through what you need personally. And you can get started for free right now. Click the link in the description. See you on the inside.